working?
Still shows 0. So, might be bad timing.
Nah, there'll be someone online. Might just be YouTube taking. Oh no, we got people coming. We got people coming. I'm working. Hello, hello.
Hello? So, definitely working then?
I believe so.
Say something so we know that you can.
Can you hear us? Okay, now we see two people. It's happening. Let's
Okay.
just do it.
Okay.
So, hello everybody. Oh, here we go. Hi,
Hi.
Triascent. Hi, hi. So, today we are doing a sibling special, and that's when I have my brother on my
Awesome.
channel. And for those of you who don't know, this is my brother. His name is Mahawin. Both of us do a lot of metaphysical work together, and we somehow both stumbled onto the same path independently. That's a long story. And we basically do a lot of creative stuff as well. And we obviously grew up watching and getting inspired by the same influences, which brings us to today's
Thank you.
topic. And which is all about heroes. Now, those of you who are watching
Hey,
this
Tara.
channel, those of you who are watching this channel know exactly who I am. And if you don't, hello, go look me up. So,
Wow, so cool. Go look me up.
yeah, what?
That's what real successful people do.
I just don't want to waste time.
Okay.
So, it's implicit. So today I wanted to. I mean, it's been a long day. It's been a long life, to be honest.
Yeah.
A very long life, even though they're technically very short years. And I was talking to a friend recently. Some of my clients become, very good friends, and she said my first session with you was just a year ago. I said, what? No, it feels like 4 years. And she's like, no, it's a year. And really, that's how the past 12 to 24 months have really felt like. Everyone's changed so much. Everyone's transforming. At least the people who are following you know, what they should be doing at this time. And one of the things that really, just helped me get through a particularly bad day was watching the trailer of the upcoming reboot of He-Man. And I was like really down, but I saw it, and the way they did that trailer it just brought back the 80s style of animation a little bit with modern themes. But they had Bonnie Tyler's I Need a Hero, but they had remastered it. And so I've been listening to that nonstop. You can ask my brother.
That is very much. It's weird. I mean, I basically introduced He-Man to her because I'm 6 years older. So I started watching it. I liked it. He-Man. I mean, yeah, He-Man and She-Ra existed before Dr. Bhairavi was born, right? So it's interesting, right? Because she's so much more stoked than me. I'm watching it, it's like, oh, that's pretty good. They're keeping the old designs. Looks like Castlevania art. Oh, okay, this should be pretty cool. And she's like, yeah. It's like, wow. How did you get more into He-Man than me? I'm kind
Because
of not
I
sure.
actually did the research, and we spent many years apart. So in that time, all of the stuff we used to watch as kids, I did research on it, and I kind of started looking at details and looking at how things were made and looking at the cultural significance of things. So I developed a greater appreciation of it over time. But academic brain, it does get used for something. So
Occult. It was all occult research.
fine, it was occult research. But anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, for those of you who are interested in that, you can look at the Netflix special that's all about, I think Castle Grey. It's called Grey Skull something, I forget, but you can look it up. But thinking about the theme, which has now been running in my head, I need a hero again and again and again. You know, as a person with a lot of 80s nostalgia, um, it's certainly been something that has made me very happy. But as a facilitator in the here and now, the first thing I think of, well, if you actually look at the lyrics of the song, and my brother pointed this out to me as well, it's basically something that's probably not suitable for children to
She
begin with.
thirsty.
She's thirsty,
She
exactly.
thirsty.
But it was still cool, it was still fun. I even wrote to the composer who did the remix. That was great. And but if you think about it, He-Man's iconic line is
I have the power. I don't want to go. It's past midnight, so I don't
He
want to
toned it
scare our
down.
neighbors.
He toned it
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
So, that's of course his iconic line. And if you think about it, we're really shifting into a spiritual phase where I have the power, which is effectively the ethos of the 80s, is shifting. The collective awareness is shifting to the realization that that doesn't work anymore. It's we have the power. Rather than the strength of the individual, it's the strength of the community that actually needs to be amped up and at this time, simply because we're working against so many collective structures that really need taking down. And you know, we don't all get the fancy sword and the cat. Well, we have cats, but they're not cringer exactly.
I don't
Um,
know. Lucky is pretty much cringer.
that's true. My
Yeah,
brother's cat could cosplay as cringer.
she spends most of the day hiding.
But when things are really like dodgy, or her cousin is in some danger, she'll come running. So that makes sense. So we do have the cats. And but so this is how I think about things, right? So my 80s child self is like happily in nostalgia, but my adult facilitator self is like, yeah, but they're going to have to do something with that message. I have the power is exactly the logic of accumulated capitalism. And if you look at the making of it, you realize that the very idea of He-Man was designed to appeal to entitled privileged white children who fell out of control of their lives, which is true. But you can still enjoy it as long as you know exactly where that's coming from. So it really got me thinking about, well, who are actual heroes right now in a way that actually aligns with this age. I mean, we also watch My Hero Academia,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
as I was telling, and some of my clients know that I actually prescribe this to them, just because a lot of them get really caught up in the main character Midoriya story arc, which is all about I have to survive, I have to thrive. It doesn't matter if my hands get damaged. I have to save the other guy. That doesn't work. So I basically tell them ignore the two central characters that have a homoerotic subtext that they don't want to go into, but
Homoerotic and abusive.
and abusive subtext that we don't want to go into, but look at all of the other characters around them and you'll get an idea of what a decent level of service looks like. How do you actually serve the community in a way where you don't die or put yourself on that razor's edge all the time? So in that sense, that anime has, I think it has a more sustainable model of what being a hero in this day and age can look like. But it's just one of those things that I wanted to talk about. My brother might have different views on it. These are just some of the things that I thought might be interesting
Well,
to explore.
let me jump in here for a second. Now, I am really interested in narrative because narrative is, I think, the primary way we learn. It's not about our textbooks, it's not about uh, our code of conduct or laws or things like that. We learn by the stories that we're exposed to. And most of the time, heroes are powerful. If they don't start out powerful, by the end of it, they are powerful. It is their power that allows them to succeed. And you know something? There are no heroes who have failed because if you fail, you're not a hero. You're an example.
Hmm.
And yeah, so heroes have to be powerful, but we live in a deeply powerless age. Like I was talking about those kids, right? Those kids which they are polling. Okay, well, we want to do this toy line for He-Man. What is the word that kids like to say? Power. They really like saying, "I have the power," because even though these are pretty much uh, poster children for when did it come out?
I think early 80s.
80s, right? So
Yeah.
these are the poster millennials. There was already like this deep sense of powerless in them because the way society had structured the nuclear family at that point, kids didn't have an expression. They had toys if you were rich or even middle income, and you had options if you were, well, in North America, basically, if you're white or you were privileged in some other way. But yeah, you had these things, but you didn't actually have a sense of, I get to choose. And MHG kind of goes back into that because the main protagonist character, he is born in a world where everyone has powers. He has no power. And he's gifted his power because basically the Jesus-like figure of that story saw him and said, I am going to pass my power on to you. And that's where his real story begins as a hero. So I wonder, and this is set out as a question rather than as an answer because questions are always a lot more interesting. How do our narratives need to change right now? How do we actually tell stories where we are winning when we don't actually have power? Because right now, most of our stories are about superheroes because superheroes get their power in magical, literal, or quasi ways. Like the only superheroes that actually work for their powers are like Iron Man, who has unnatural intellect that he can build super armor in a cave somewhere,
Oh, Batman.
or Batman, who's born rich and has dead parents, which is a terrible superpower to have, but it pretty much is necessary to be a hero. But again, remember, these are like super intelligent people who have access to privileges that most of us don't. So, what is the story of someone that we can actually identify with? Someone in today's world that goes up and duels against the dragons and windmills of despair that are around us. So, heroes, I don't know. Bai brought up the topic, but I've always been thinking a lot about how do things have to change so that it can actually be something that inspires us again? That's a question. I leave it up to either you to jump in with something pithy, or Cat coming in, or someone saying stuff.
Well, Christine says a hero is someone who perseveres no matter what they've gone through and remains kind and decent. That is a good
That is a
definition.
good definition.
It's a solid definition. I certainly am not going to say that it's wrong. But what the point that I'm making is that our narrative surrounding the story of the hero absolutely need to change because it started off as the consolidation of power in one. And right now we need power in many. Which is why, if you compare the quality of hero, I'd say My Hero Academia is probably better.
Mm?
And that's where you do get the kid who's no power, is
Hmm.
gifted abilities, but then he feels the need to put himself on that line, so often that he risks everything just so he can save people. And frankly, that's inspiring in one way, but it also very much equates hero with wounded healer.
Yeah, yeah. Or almost like this suicidal sense of perfection.
Yeah, yeah. If I don't save this person, something then happens to me, or something it happens to me that takes away my ability to be a hero. And I think in that sense, everyone who is trying to do something kind and something decent in this world ends up putting themselves onto those, as my brother was saying, unrealistic standards of perfection. I mean, you know who I would consider a hero? Very simply, for me, it's Fred Rogers. It's like, he did what he could. It was measured, it was realistic, the smart objectives. He ticked all those boxes and left a lasting legacy. And that didn't require this kind of pathos ridden, dramatic narrative that thrives on the highs and lows and is really exciting to watch on screen. But in real life, it becomes very unsustainable. And I would actually say the hero taken too far is actually what births a communal narcissist, in the sense that if you manage to convince someone of the specialness of what you're doing and why you deserve access to certain things or are free from certain consequences, and you get enough people around you feeding you with that energy, you basically set up the same situation. So, using the word hero, using that archetype in and of itself, even though it brings up such immediate positive feelings, when I at least think about it in terms of the context of what is needed now, it just doesn't fit anymore. To me, at least.
Maybe the concept of hero has been hijacked entirely. Because when we look at heroes today, Um, sometimes it's acts of personal bravery, individual acts of personal bravery, where someone says someone is in trouble, or maybe even it's a pet that's in trouble, and
Mm.
someone rushes in, risks their own life, saves them, and it's a kind of arc in itself. They did that heroic act, they are going to be a hero forever, but they don't need the responsibility of always going to have to rescue people.
It's a one off.
It's a one off.
Mm.
And then you have people who do heroic things without necessarily putting themselves in a physical danger. Like in this dystopian capitalist society, we'll see things like child works 6 hours a day making something to sell so that he can pay for the food of his schoolmates,
Mm-hmm.
or terrible stories where people, normal average people, either put themselves to work or to in some way collect donations, charities to help people. And this is also heroic because, well, let's face it, if you were less altruistic, you'd have a more fun life. But these kids are actually sacrificing. That also applies to adults, of course. It's just a better example when used with children.
Mm-hmm.
But when we really say heroes, most people would immediately go either to the fictional heroes or to the captains of industry, Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Bill Gates. And these are people who are, well, there's wide variance of beliefs about them, but none of them are actually heroic in that they do not sacrifice individually. Even the ones who are gifted philanthropists, they're basically kind of like maybe fiddling a couple of percentages of their vast wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is their wealth or their celebrity becomes conflated with power, and then they become heroic.
And there's a cult of personality that grows around them.
Okay. Yeah, the most obvious one currently going on is Elon Musk's. I don't even know what to call them. They are convinced that they're going to go to Mars, and that Elon is going to take them, which are not bad things. But there's definitely a lack of discretion on what type of contract are you going to sign up before you go to Mars. Is there going to be a constitution on Mars, or is there going to be a new ruler called Elon there? None of this has been discussed, but the man is trying it. He is a hero. He is our champion. And people kind of lose their heads when there's a hero, really. It becomes more, you're a hero, I'm going to follow you because you're doing something awesome.
Exactly. So, in that sense, I mean, yes, obviously, the first thing a person with any sense at all is going to say, well, I don't need a hero to come and save me. I'm going to go save myself, which is always the best thing to try first. But in cases where when you're looking at larger societal, collective, or even familial dynamics, it doesn't even have to be that big. The person who tries to carry the role of the hero often always ends up as either the martyr or as the person who's scapegoated. And very often in situations like this, people who are actually standing up to injustices get projected on very, very violently sometimes. So, really, when there is true and real heroism that is shown, especially when the status quo is questioned, real heroes do not always get treated very well. In fact, sometimes they are even, denied or they are discredited by the very people they are trying to help. A lot of the times, heroism happens in such a way that, you know, um, what's the word? What are you doing?
I'm going to do a piece of research. I wanted to say
Okay.
something, but I don't remember the name.
So, a lot of the times, what tends to happen is people who actually stand up and do the right thing, they may not actually be heard for a long time. And because they feel that this is the only way that they can help, they can contribute, over time they just end up getting burnt out. And I see this a lot with facilitators. I see this a lot with people in any kind of service industry where they're trying to do something good. But really, rather than that system where the one leads the many, this is a time where we have to all come together so that we create a much healthier group dynamic where we can support each other and sustain each other. As I was saying, it needs to shift to we have the power. But honestly, if you think about it, it's also about expanding the definition of the hero because obviously there's the heroine. And so far, there is no gender neutral term for hero to begin with. But a lot of the time, when I see people who identify as women who are encouraged to step into their heroes or heroine stories, they're basically recycling those old narratives of accumulate your power in you and go out and dominate the way a hero should. Because it's a villain if you lose or if you don't fit the moral aesthetic of the time, but if it's a hero if you do. And that really needs to be a discussion that has to be had when we talk about that larger process of feminine awakening. It's not, you can't just copy and paste what was there before. So when we think about empowering community, and this is where I want to throw it to people, how do you think that, let's throw the question to people, what do you think is the best way to actually create a community of people who help each other, who nurture each other? You can call them heroes if you want, but who don't have to, either be seen as extra powerful, extra special, extra responsible, extra accountable, who do not need to have that extra influence upon others. And really, those are the kinds of questions we need to be asking ourselves, especially those of us who are involved in the work of healing and facilitating others and developing communities. And it's a key question. So, all this stuff got, in a good way, triggers as I was thinking about He-Man and what it means and so on and so forth. I would say, I mean, I haven't, obviously it's not come out yet. It's only coming out in July, end of July. But we did watch a little bit of the Princess of Power reboot,
Yeah, yeah.
Shira reboot, where they've gone straight to council. They're like, we need all the princesses. They need to be on a council. We got to do this together. So I'm like, great. Voltron reboot, same deal. It's all about working together to finally create all these things. So those two are on
Yes
board.
and no.
Yes and no. It gets there.
Because they're basically about all these gifted people.
Still, that's the
Gifted
problem.
people.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
is actually something that I notice a lot with the light worker community or spiritualist community.
Hmm.
It's almost like everyone wants to have the biggest psychic gift
Oh
because that's
God.
way how you get to kind of create your little light cell, I guess. And because we're a light cell and we're good, we're going to beam our light, but we need to be in a group first. And it basically comes down to a kind of hierarchy of supposed or proposed psychic ability.
It does. And that's when you equate psychic ability with spirituality, and that's not the same thing.
It's a terrible thing because that's how you get crazy cultists that start pulling you into a crazy cult.
This is true. And when we say we want to empower the group and we want to empower the collective, what I see with certain groups in the world is that they're just recycling these old power dynamics, but they're just keeping it in their elite cadre. Do you sing from the hymn book of being the light worker? Do you sing from the hymn book of being the spiritualist? Do you sing from the hymn book of supporting the feminine, even if the structure of your group is completely hierarchical? And that's what's happening as well in the name of evoking that power and finding that power again. I mean, these are all unpopular topics, but this is what we talk about. You can go somewhere else to go and find buzzwords that make you feel happy. But this is the kind of energy which people who are wanting to do that transformative work at this day and age need to go into, need to think about, and really need to evoke within themselves. What does it mean to be a hero in this day? And do we even need that distinction in the first place?
I don't know how to say this because this is like maybe it is hugely explosive, or maybe it's just so basic that everyone has already contemplated it. It does not actually have anything. This is coming from me. It might be something Bai agrees with, it might not be something Bai agrees with, but here is something I believe to be fundamentally true. Spirituality that is aimed selfward is benevolent and good up until the point that the society and the environment around you is markedly worse than you. If you are a spiritual being, if you believe you are on a light path, and that is not people with magical powers, they're not people with psychic powers. It merely means are you aim towards what you believe to be the light. You will try to help. I have a hard time I have a hard time understanding this empathy because as people, we are aggressively social. We see something hurting and we want to help. You see a cat or a dog hurting on the street, and then you will see a video about someone risking their life to save this poor animal. We want to help. We have the courage to help, to put our life at risk, but we do not know how to help when it is societal forces that are what is binding us to systems that are not just degrading us, but the planet and probably our basic self respect as human beings. So, anyone who is spiritual, unless you're living in a wondrous place where no one is suffering, I think you have to look around and go, even if I can't help a lot, what little bit can I do? What have I been gifted so that I can help with something? That's That's something that I believe in. I think you cannot be spiritual and ignore pain around you.
You can pretend to be spiritual and ignore pain around you. I
And
mean,
that's not ignoring anymore. That's just like, yes, more customers to come to my 7 month class to become a genuine shaman.
oh
I will
God.
take your pain away.
Um, but segueing from that point, um, I mean, a lot of the times, I think that in this particular field, in this particular domain, a lot of the way this particular domain has been commercialized is dependent upon problematizing people, something to fix, something to say you're not good enough, you haven't done this practice, you haven't attained this state. There's always something that someone's going to have to learn. I have never met a single facilitator who knew everything, or who had nothing else to learn, or had nothing else to go and uncover in themselves. That's the only thing that I can say for sure, that there is no one who is perfect. But very often, even and I see this a lot because a lot of people like me. So the moment they see me, someone who doesn't have a very, very strong sense of self, which is why I tell you to really self evaluate before you book a session, they will literally throw the hero pedestal on me. And I do not respond well to that at all. I basically just say, all right, here's a good, healthy amount of detachment. This is where you're projecting. These are the issues. This is what you need to do. Here is your list. I am not going to save you. That does not usually go well unless someone is willing to realize where they have unconsciously surrendered their power over to someone else that they've immediately put on that construction. And this is one of the reasons why I think the question of heroism and the idea of healing or spiritual and the spiritual path in general have a very strong intersection. Because when you surrender your power in such an uncritical way to anybody, it doesn't matter who you're working with, you're just reenacting that same power dynamic. And a lot of facilitators thrive on this. What I ask from my clients is not unconditional surrender. I'm not God. But what I ask for is trust. If you can trust the process, you will be okay at the end of this. Let me do my work. And if you can't do it, don't come. It's that simple. But a lot of people do struggle with that idea of actually being able to say, well, no, I have my own agency. This is someone who can give me a perspective. But at the end of the day, it's still me who is going to save myself. And obviously, with Spirit's guidance and with Spirit's benevolence, because we won't be doing anything here without that. And it's that shift in mindset that also needs to happen in the spiritual circles. That because there is such a hierarchical power differential in any kind of facilitator setting. Doesn't matter if you had to go for a session, a course, a retreat, whatever. The moment there is that pedestal, there's going to be that interaction. And that pedestal is important because if you've got something to teach someone in front of the class, you got to stand on it, do your bit, and get off of it and keep on moving. But we're not doing enough of that. What I see is really that energy of accumulation and investment in a way that is not particularly healthy. Which is why, even though I generally am very interested in the welfare of my clients, I try not to get too attached or too invested or too involved in their lives. And when I see they kind of start gravitating that way towards me, I basically go, honey, distance, think. This is not what you need. What you need is yourself. To me, having the courage to trust yourself, and even if you make a mistake, having the courage to trust yourself, having the courage to try, even when you fail in quotation marks, because really, as long as you get up, you learn, you make amends, you keep moving. That's part of life. But as long as you can find that within you, you are a hero, if you need that word, you know? But it's just some of those things that have also come up in thinking through all of this. But let me look at the comments because I haven't done that in a while.
Let me add one thing. It was about that facilitatorship and embedding of that energy. I am a healer in the sense that I will help someone heal. And it's funny because sometimes you cannot tell who is actually going to follow the process. I've had actual people who have stage 2 cancer or Parkinson's, and they just don't want to listen to the basic rules of eat at this time, sleep at this time. And I wasn't willing to give my energy so they could ignore things. I said, if you follow the process, there will be benefits. We won't talk about cures, but there will be benefits to your health. So people actually wanting to choose their process is new. And I say this to kind of contrast some of the things that I have learned have a long tradition, a lineage of teachers. And in trouble or in certain circumstances, we are supposed to call upon our teachers. And it was actually a lot with Bai's help. But as I have looked back, and even though it's been such a useful technological tool of spirit, it really comes down to no one changes after they die. These teachers will have the beliefs and the values that they passed on with. And that was kind of like boom, because, well, damn, man, what would they think of trans people? What would they think about the fact that my sister is a far more gifted spiritualist than I am? And most of the time, I defer to her. They would not be cool with that. And even though as a tool it was very effective, because there's this giant chain, like a golden chain that says, hey man, we're going to help you, just be a part of that chain. It's like, nah, I don't really want to lock in some of those things. Some of those codes were good for its time, but if we those codes have also held us to a point where we literally cannot tell the evils that are tearing our planet apart, because they are hyper inflated forms of virtue. Patriarchy, once upon a time, had a small claim to being a virtue, very small, but it worked. It hyperinflated. Mercantilism that became capitalism was once upon a fantastic tool to bring back money from the very wealthy, mostly royals, to the people. But now we've created a new techno capitalistic class of successful people who basically make the rules and laws. So, no, I think it's time to let go of some of these chains of belief. And yes, that will come at a cost of your personal psychic abilities. It's better to go at it you're alone, honestly, and with your beliefs in alignment to your actions.
Absolutely. I mean, and that does fly in the face of what a lot of people are doing. But if you look at it, just look at the past 2 years. And when with all of this, with the world having gone through what it's been going through, people have been forced to really look at themselves and realize that the power that they're looking for has always been there. You don't need to turn to some guide in the sky to go and pour down some golden manna so that you can be yourself. If you needed that, why did you incarnate?
Why?
Basically, I mean, but to add on to reply to something
Mm-hmm.
that oh, I like this. Drawing Momentum says heroism has been hijacked by consumerism and is pushed by Hollywood crap. Correct. That being said, still love the Avengers. Still gonna watch the He-Man reboot. I'm still gonna enjoy it. But in my mind, it's already like really not. I mean, we'll see. We'll see if it evolves. We'll see if it evolves. I get to have some joy in life. I get to have some nostalgia that is still innocent. But we'll see. We'll see what they do. But yeah, I mean, coming to my brother, I might have more, psychic, spiritual know-how, whatever, but I have benefited immensely just from the practical logic that my brother brings to a situation. Um, just because when you're very psychic and you're very spiritual at the same time, and again, they're not the same thing, you can be a complete asshole because you don't know what the perspective of a person who cannot see or who cannot know the things that you're doing has. And there is a privilege that is embedded in that. It's not something that I was born with because I was born into the right family. Yes, it accumulated over lifetimes of doing this work. But it also takes a lot of humility to look at that and go, well, even if I rely on this tool too much and forget my humanity, I'm still going into that cycle of golden, gilded, autocratic, spiritual hierarchies that look wonderful and lofty because there's several dimensions up in the sky or down in the earth. And again, that doesn't change anything. So, going back to what my brother said, it comes down to individual practice. In yourself, cultivate what you understand as heroism. You want to call it courage? Great. You want to call it determination? Great. Hopefully, your heroism allows you to live a decent life yourself and to make an impact on the people around you. Honestly, that's more than enough. We don't need some sword with that we lift into the sky and yell our power chant unless you're posing for Halloween. You know.
I'm going to disagree there. If everyone could have a sword, which whenever they had a difficult moment, do I change job? Do I marry this person? I am depressed and I have a hard time getting out of bed. If I had a sword next to me and I couldn't get out of bed, I'd be like, I have the power. I would get out of the bed a lot easier. I think more people should have swords.
Well, that's the thing, but that becomes a crutch. That's
We
big.
are all limping.
Yeah,
This is a
okay.
hell dimension that has been created.
I get it. But at the same time, once you get, it's going to be like an addiction. If you keep using that sword, if you keep using the little power up, you're going to need a bit more the next time, a bit more the next time, a bit more the next time. Then you won't be Adam at all. You'll basically just be He-Man all of the time. And that's basically a
Do you
hollowing
see
out.
how many six packs he has? Do you
Yeah, but
see how much hair he has? Give
okay,
me a
okay.
reason.
Well, you get what we're saying, though. At least I
Okay.
hope so. I hope so. Because the more we look for spiritual boost from the outside, we form a different type of addiction. Yeah, and that's the same that can be said for substance abuse, even if it's caffeine, even if it's sugar. The more you actually crave for that thing, um, that that you feel is just giving you a little bit of oomph to get up and get out there, the more you'd get dependent on it, the less you are actually yourself. Now, Dusana brings up a good point. Crutches support people to walk, they liberate. This is true. If you actually need the crutch. But if you have someone who doesn't need it, who is still using it, then that's not support and liberation anymore. That's addiction and entrapment. So what I'm saying is that there is a line there that needs to be drawn, even with spiritual practices, with psychic attunements. The more we seek to get that hero power from the outside, the more we fall back into that hierarchical structure. You know, perfectly fair. Christian says the earth is a
It
paradise.
is.
Humans are the only ones who can create hellscapes here. I
We did.
disagree, actually. There are far weirder things in the universe than humans, but this is not the place to discuss it.
Okay.
There are lots more things exerting their will on this planet than human beings, but an esoteric subject. But effectively, we have the choice as incarnate humans, we have the choice to pull back and make a difference. That is where humanity has actual power, not because we're all glowing from swords or whatnot, or chains of dudes in the sky who have basically accumulated power over thousands of years. But the real power we have is that power of agency. It's that power to make a different choice in every day, you know? And sometimes it's even in the tiniest choice where we can actually exert our true power. So these tiny decisions, like maybe it's switching to, little things. Not a single person can save the planet by themselves. But let's say your concern is, environmental preservation. Maybe switch to, I don't know, biodegradable garbage bags. Maybe switch to a reusable straw. Maybe eat out less. The little things are where we can actually individually assert that power that drives change. And really, it's power in these micro decisions that is how I think the world is actually going to change. It's not going to be one big dramatic hero. That's probably going to be a smokescreen if anybody did come up like that. But it's going to be individuals all over the world doing little things, deciding that they are not going to go with the flow of how things were, but doing little things to make a difference. Cumulative change rather than that big heroic dramatic finish. Maybe you
Not the
disagree.
best example, just because,
I know
yeah.
that the people who are polluting the planet are basically have names and faces and they're 100 companies. I get that. I get that.
No, they're 90% of the pollution. Pollution did not actually go down during this quarantine period.
It's also true.
So,
Not the best example, but you get what I'm saying.
yeah, in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
like maybe go to protest, sign up for something. let the people know that there are more voices. They might be quiet voices that aren't pulling out guillotines, but they are voices that say, no, you must change. We are seeing that happen.
Mm,
I'm a huge fan of AOC, and she has a huge following because she is a clear, uh, compassionate voice that is actually speaking truth to power.
mm,
And I see so many social media movements which is all about adding those little voices and
mm,
saying, no, we do want to change. We want to do this peacefully because we are good people that
mm,
don't want violence. But end of the story, something got to change you.
mm.
So I think that's the way to go.
What do you think is the way to go?
Little voices that create change. Or at least by the time things get really bad, we all know about each other and we're like, well, we know whose houses we're going to. But that's because I'm cynical and jaded.
Fair enough.
Results.
Fair enough. I still think that switching over to recyclable plastics and garbage bags does make a difference, even if it's only to you. But but let's see what else we got here.
Okay, there are a
What?
lot of comments.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, okay. Hang on. Brother have been working on. Um,
It did. A lot of people dropped off for a while, so I figured we are either being uncool or it's the video stream ended. So we'll
I don't
see.
know. Seems I don't know. Ah, why internet? Hello, hello. Are we back? Are we
Oops.
back?
Okay.
Oh, we're back. We are back. Woo! Yay. This should work now. But yeah, I was just going to say, have released my single, Journey Cat Hero to Integration, which is based on a project that my brother and I have been working on. And, we kind of, we've been fleshing out the story for like 3 seasons of an epic drama inspired by our two cats. Maybe you want to share what you want to talk about it because I don't want to like give it away.
Honestly, I was mostly just joking through the beginning because it's quarantine. All we really do is hang out with our cats, and our cats have very larger than life personalities. And yeah, so at some point it's like, wow, we've actually written out a story in this hypothetical western where cats can be sheriffs.
Yes,
And it is a story of a small, bumbling baby sheriff
yes,
that is being secretly helped by a fox vigilante.
yeah.
And yeah, I know it's like I was actually aiming it more for kids because cat sheriffs, baby cat sheriffs, fox vigilantes in Wild West. I thought it was meant for kids, but Bai's input has put in immigration,
Refugees.
refugees, social ills. So, and she's like, we need pathos, we need people crying, we need families that are reunited after separation, feels, and I'm just like,
No
okay.
one said that. No one said that sustainable heroism was dramatically exciting.
ah,
But it was, the story is really about these two little girls and how they find, how they are truly heroes within. And one is having to reconcile the need to be a vigilante versus her day job, which is being a clerk at the sheriff's office. And the other one, we're still working on how she actually finds the heroism within because she's very cute to begin with. So we are trying to make a cute baby hero out of it. So I've started with the concept art, got one of the tracks up. There's a couple of others that I've been working on. I mean, we literally have like songs and like at least 3 seasons of material. So hopefully this is something that we can work on, that embodies some of these deep messages that we've been talking about in an accessible way.
I just wanted to create entertainment that had cats involved because I thought my cat would
It
look
has
cute
to
with a
be
sheriff
deep.
hat.
Okay, it had to be deep. I can't do anything if it doesn't have a deeper message. Okay, Venus and Scorpio, that's just what I'm like. So, but it's just, it's got to go places and real feels. I mean, yeah.
there will be crying. Like there's actually one scene where she's like, we at least have to have one scene where Uncle Iroh sings in Avatar, and I'm already like, no, that's too dark. No, we don't want that song.
Well, it's not obviously, it's not going to be the
Generations of
same.
millennials are crying out.
It's good. They need the catharsis.
Okay, that's a whole different story, but no, I do not agree with catharsis that happens in movies and media that takes away real life catharsis.
I don't know. I find value with that, but that's what we're working on. So it should be interesting to see how it comes out. And the girls like the compositions, so they know which one is theirs. And you can see, like, my girl will literally smile when she hears the song that I wrote for her because she knows it.
It's true.
I took video, so
Like, my cat is not smart. She's got a huge heart, but you have to lead her to the food in front of her, like directly in front of her. But she will actually look up when Bai plays the song that's got composed for her. So apparently, cats can agree with music choices. Who knew? At least our cats can.
yeah,
Right?
yeah. So that's our, how we are working our story into the. We are working the discussion on heroes into our lives at this time. Let's see. Okay, all right. Oh, here we go. Drawing momentum says, my inner child is definitely my hero. Oh, that's
That is a
nice.
good hero to
That's a
have.
good hero. Tusana says, are you going to put it on TikTok too? Yeah, yeah.
I
That
have that kind of face.
that she says that medium is underappreciated for the amount of social change that it makes. So yeah, I would say, I think we've had a well-rounded discussion. Engaged with the peeps that are here. I mean, I know a lot of people will feel very uncomfortable with this topic because we have been collectively told that we are now disempowered because of whatnot, 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 and we need to find it in ourselves. And I'm kind of saying, well, that's true, but don't do it in a way that recreates the old pattern. You do not take from something else to find power within, whether it's your environment, whether it's your friends, your family, your clients, whatever. In fact, that definition of accumulative power just doesn't really work with spirit. At least not my understanding of spirit.
If
But
your spiritual path doesn't lead to uncomfortable places, you're doing it wrong.
most people here get that.
Yeah, you've got a really cool crowd.
They do. They've been a client.
Otherwise, they'd have ran from you.
They did in the beginning. I mean, and then I found that a lot of people just started not caring what I was saying, and they were just like, "Sky Priestess glow," and I'm like, "Oh dear God, no." So, decided to be a bit more overt with it. Tree Essence says, I'm potting up plants while listening to you too. Thanks for having start my day out in alignment with spirit. Are you growing anything at your new place?
Ah,
Well, this is an interesting story. So we come here. We are like, all right, let's find a place to sit and be at least for a year or two. Neighbors turn out to be insane and are
mhm.
basically upset because they used to grow plants around our house, and I don't think they actually like the fact that there are people living in the house, which they're supposed to be. So, because they kind of got used to dominating the territory. So the moment we figured that out, we got a huge rat invasion. So these people have basically been custodians of the adjacent land, which is one of the reasons why we thought this would
We
be a
thought it's
nice
lovely, lots of nature and stuff like that.
nature, people growing plants, and that it turned out pretty shit. Um, and the
Yeah.
moment we realized that, we put two and two together because a lot of weird things have been happening in this house. And we got this weird rat infestation out of nowhere. And they've not allowed the plants to grow. And I have been trying and trying and trying. But that's the thing. When you know the custodians of the land are not in alignment, and it's just not going to work. So the thing, so we basically just let the garden be. And the noni plant, however, is continuing to grow because noni is badass.
Mm-hmm.
But we've just basically just gone, you know what? Whoever is there and is still growing, great. But what we've done is we've put little statues of angels in the garden, so at least hopefully the rats don't pee on them at night. But they're quite violent.
Mm.
actually,
Yeah.
the ones here, so that we make sure the cats are not at all allowed outside. They're pretty violent fellows. But, lesson learned, lesson learned. We just need to move on and go and do other things. So,
Learning.
yeah, learning. I think it's like, if we get too attached to a particular vision, and we really did get hoodwinked. We looked at the land, we looked at the way people are presenting themselves, we tried to do a due diligence, we hadn't had a house for 8 months, and we were like, okay, finally, some sanctuary.
Yeah.
And then my brother just calls it the bunker now. So
It's a bunker.
it's a bunker. But hopefully, it just paves the way for better things in the future. And now I have the experience of gardening, and I know that gardens tend to like me. I was away for like 2 weeks. No,
Yeah.
including quarantine, it was more like a month.
Mm-hmm.
I was away for a month, and my brother went out and did all the stuff he should have, but the garden just kind of went, nope, if she's not here, we're not working. So, but at least we got the experience.
I mean, we had to be somewhere during the quarantines that were happening because of COVID. So, a bunker is as good as a house sometimes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But Christine wants to know, will peppermint plants keep
They
them away?
should.
They should. So I did try planting them, and this is the thing: good soil, fresh seeds, not a single seed sprouted, not even one.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, energetically, nope, not welcome here. So we are going to be on the move again, doing finding a place to be. As I
Mm-hmm.
said, people who actually stand up to shit are not always welcomed. So,
It is not only humans that like the easy way out.
yeah,
I can apply to land. I can apply to spirits. I bet you there's some asshole spirits out there.
definitely,
Mm.
definitely. But yeah, drawing momentum says that vigilante cat better get busy on those rats.
She wants to.
She
We don't let
wants
her
to.
out.
We really don't. But Christine wants to know: is it possible to get a pet mongoose? I would fear for the mongoose. Tell them about the glass.
Oh, this is one of those weird, unnatural things, right? We had left some. I had left some trash, not too far from the trash can, but it hadn't been put away, and I got busy and I forgot about it. And there was some glass in there. Okay, rats came out at night, tore it open. Okay, fine, my fault. I'll go fix that. And I'm sweeping it up, but it's not. The glass isn't just around the bag. It's actually been brought closer and closer to the front door. And I'm just looking, why would rats do that? Why on earth would they grab glass and bring it to the front door? Like, that does not sound natural at
That
all.
is rats of nymph level shit.
It This is more like serial killer rats. The rats on nymph are pretty cool.
Some of them are serial killers.
That is true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we did have one serial killer rat.
Hmm. But yeah, so that's what's going on here. So you just got to keep pushing, keep striving. Um, Carmen is like, what the heck? Time to move.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, we are
yeah,
working on it.
yeah.
We are working on it. But
Bizarre.
bizarre,
Mm-hmm.
bizarre. So we've had our heroic metal tested, and I can tell you that heroism for us is getting up, making sure my brother takes care of a lot of that, making sure that that the girls are okay,
Fed,
fed.
not
I
going.
get up, I work as hard as I can, and I'm like, okay, I'm done now because it takes a lot of energy to work at people at this time. A
Mm-hmm.
lot. Baby wants to know, do you have any predictions on one's health as per the charts during this time? Honestly speaking, Bibi, there's going to be a lot of health concerns coming up with the collective, especially from August onwards, because Therius is going to be in Virgo. And that's an energy that really brings about a lot of issues, either with health or either with instabilities, energetic instabilities in your everyday life, with your digestion, all kinds of things.
Nerves?
Nerves as well, yeah.
Yeah, febrile nerves is what's. Yeah.
So, we're actually moving into a collective period of ill health, and that's going to last for a couple of years. So, really, it's,
Nurture yourself now.
yeah,
Like,
start getting into the habit.
Teas which are good for your adrenals are something to invest in now. Start drinking that stuff as
Mm-hmm.
per your apothecary or herbalist recommends. There are lots of herbalist shops now, so they'll be able to tell you stuff that helps your adrenals because it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Quite bumpy. I know that basil is pretty good for that, at least with my, knowledge of essential oils. I hear that basil is pretty good for
Good for
that.
the nerves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's one of the few things that are actually surviving the garden. So basil is pretty badass to begin with.
That's true.
Yeah.
You can survive in my garden, you badass.
Sounds terrible.
It's true. We have more horror stories, but I don't want to freak out everyone too much. But yeah, yeah. Well, sometimes heroism is still showing up, keeping hope, plowing through each day, and doing your best to help other people. You know?
It's pretty simple, but yeah, if you can do what you need to do to be on this planet and also take care of the people that you care about, and that does not just have to be humans,
Mm-hmm.
that is pretty heroic for this time and age. Basil, bamboo, and kudzu.
What is kudzu?
Kudzu is a type of vine. It's a vine that really grows, but bamboo did not make it.
The bamboo didn't make it either. Bhakti says,
But
rat problem seems you need that. We do! We do! Well, he's got all of that damn money. We can get a personal jet and fly around with the cats. Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. There's no food or anything there. We've done everything we should be doing. And this is the thing. There are fruit orchards right across the street with ripe fruit. Ripe fruit. So it's a sign. It's a sign. We need to go to a better place.
hmm
But yeah, that's it. It's probably
I
a
think we're
good.
wrapped up.
We wrapped up. Got into a segue with something a little bit more lighthearted. You can check out my single journey of cat hero into integration. That is already up on YouTube, and yeah, we'll catch up sometime. I know it's a heavy energy, but why bother pretending? It's like that doesn't. It's just I don't have the spare energy to pretend. I really don't have the spare energy to go, well, everything's okay now. No.
How do
So
astrologists do that? How do they actually have good prediction when you kind of look around the world and just like,
I think a lot of astrologers got hit very hard when Saturn hit the galactic center,
okay,
because a lot of them kind of saw that traditional astrology was just fucked up and would not tell you anything.
ah, okay.
But a lot of them are also in denial about it. Now, there are some good ones who will literally just go, um, I can't, I can't really tell you, but I can tell you that it also means, a more limited clientele. But you know what? Sometimes quality is more important than quantity. I'd say that applies to most things. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you all. I
And
appreciate all the happy comments and
yes,
hellos.
and all the hearts. That's nice. That is nice. Be good to yourselves. Be good to the peeps, fur babies, and so on around you. Try and be good to the earth as well. And that's all the hero we actually need. I know you still want a sword. I know.
I don't know. I mean, if suddenly a dude riding a tiger and had a sword like ended up invading Senate and throwing Mitch McConnell into a midden, I'd be pretty cool with that. I'm just saying it's not going to happen. But if it happened, I could praise it. But for until that happens, we should all be our own hero.
Anyway. Get him a sword, Dr. Me. He used to have one as a little boy. So I heard.
I was very young.
He was very young, but he did have the.
Yeah, let's not talk about that.
All right. Bye bye, sweeties. Take care. Bye.